October 12, 1943. A nameless cluster of stone houses south of the Volturno River, Italy. The air is thick with the metallic smell of pulverized limestone and the sweet, sickly odor of decomposition. Oberleutnant Richter, commanding a forward element of the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division, scans the village with his Zeiss binoculars. It is silent, too silent. His battalion, nearly 600 men strong, waits in the valley below, engines idling, the occasional cough of a mortar tube echoing off the hills. This village, perched on the road to Caserta, is an insignificant speck of dust on his map. It should have been abandoned, but his orders are to clear it. He feels nothing but contempt. The Allied advance has been a clumsy, brutal brawl, a display of brute force, not skill. He has seen them fight. The Americans with their wasteful artillery. The British with their archaic, almost sentimental attachment to the individual rifleman. They are predictable. They are experts in a war that is already obsolete. Richter signals the advance. Half a mile away in a different village, that obsolete war is dying in blood and cordite. A platoon of British infantry, the Green Howards, is caught in the open. They are executing a perfect by-the-book assault. Bayonets fixed, spread in a textbook formation, they advance on a German-held farmhouse. They are the experts. They have trained for this. They grip their Lee-Enfield rifles, ready to unleash the mad minute, the hallmark of British marksmanship. 15 aimed rounds in 60 seconds. It is a tactic born of massed volleys, of a gentleman's war. The German response is anything but gentlemanly. From the farmhouse window, an MG-42 opens up. It does not sound like a gun. It sounds like canvas being torn, a horrifying high-pitched shriek that fires 20 rounds a second. The air is instantly filled with a solid wall of 7.92 mm steel. Men do not fall. They are pureed. The Mad Minute is a pathetic pop gun against the buzzsaw. The British officer, a young man fresh from Sandhurst, screams, "Charge!" But the order is swallowed by the pneumatic hammer of the machine gun. His men are shredded before they take 3 steps. The expert system is a suicide pact. The survivors, pinned, terrified, can do nothing but scrape the dirt and wait for the mortars to finish them. The German Goliath, the combined arms fire team, is unstoppable. Back at the silent village, Oberleutnant Richter lowers his binoculars. His scouts report nothing. No tripwires, no mines, no sign of the British. The village is empty. He allows himself a thin smile. "They have run," he says to his radio man. "The cowards are learning." He orders the battalion forward. The point elements, 2 full squads of Panzer Grenadiers, advance up the dusty track, their own MG-42s pointed forward, ready to annihilate any expert British defense. They laugh, sharing cigarettes. This will be an easy day. They reach the first stone house. Nothing. They kick in the door. Empty. They move deeper, spreading out into the small piazza. The village is dead. Richter watches from his command post, impatient. "Proceed," he orders. "Clear the buildings. We must keep moving." The bulk of the battalion, hundreds of men, begins to move up the road, clogging the valley approach. They are arrogant. They are experts. And they are about to learn that the easiest man to fool is the one who believes he knows everything. This is not the story of a battle. This is the story of an execution. This is the story of how 8 men, armed with nothing but hunting rifles and the cowardly skills of a poacher, stopped a German battalion in its tracks and rewrote the rules of modern warfare. Let us rewind to 1940. Europe is burning. The British Expeditionary Force has been humiliated at Dunkirk, evacuated by a flotilla of fishing boats, leaving its expert equipment behind. The British Army, the Goliath of the previous war, is now a panicked David, staring across the channel at the seemingly invincible Wehrmacht. The doctrine of the British High Command is rigid, forged in the trenches of the Somme. The War Office is a fortress of expert opinion, dominated by generals who still believe the bayonet is the ultimate weapon, that pluck and brawling will win the day. Their entire infantry doctrine is built around the Lee-Enfield rifle. It is a magnificent weapon, accurate and fast, and the training is superb. A British Tommy is expected to hit a target at 300 yards and fire 15 times a minute. This is the Mad Minute. It is a doctrine of volume. It is designed to repel a massed infantry charge. But the Germans are not using massed infantry charges. They are using something else. They are using the squad. The German expert system is built not around the rifleman, but around the machine gun. The MG-42 is the true heart of the Wehrmacht's infantry. A German squad exists for one purpose: to feed, aim, and protect its machine gun. The riflemen are merely support. While the British are training their men to be expert brawlers at medium range, the Germans are training their men to be expert killers at long range. The MG-42, with its blistering rate of fire and quick change barrel, can suppress an entire platoon, pinning them to the ground, holding them in place while mortars and riflemen maneuver to destroy them. The British Mad Minute is a doctrine of offense, of aggression. The German Maschinengewehr is a doctrine of defense, of annihilation. And as the Allies prepare to invade Fortress Europe, first through the soft underbelly of Italy, they are about to run straight into this buzzsaw. The impossible problem is not the German soldier. It is the German system. The Allies are bringing a beautifully crafted dueling pistol to a belt-fed machine gun fight. The British Ordnance Corps and the War Office are the true Goliath. They are staffed by men who won their medals at Passchendaele. They are TNT purists, men who believe in the power of artillery and the bayonet. To them, sniping is a dirty word. It is ungentlemanly. It is cowardly. It is the work of assassins, not soldiers. The expert view is that snipers are a novelty, a specialist tool for harassing sentries, not a battle-winning weapon. They invest in the Sten gun, a cheap, crude submachine gun designed for brawling in trenches and streets. They invest in artillery, endless tons of high explosives. They are preparing to fight the last war, a war of attrition, of massed formations and industrial slaughter. They scoff at the idea of precision. They laugh at the notion that one man, with one bullet, could change the course of a battle. A rifle, they argue, is for a rifleman, and a rifleman's job is to close with the enemy and kill him with cold steel. This arrogance, this by-the-book blindness is the real enemy. The ticking clock is the Italian campaign, September 1943. The Allies have landed, but the soft underbelly is proving to be a spine of granite. Italy is a country of mountains, ridges, and deep valleys. It is a machine gunner's paradise. Every village is a fortress, every hill a strong point. The Germans, masters of the defensive, are bleeding the Allies white. Small, expertly sighted rearguards, often just a single MG-42 team and a mortar, are holding up entire divisions. The Allied expert solution is to call in the Goliath. They pound the German positions with thousands of shells. They level the ancient stone villages. They turn the countryside into a lunar landscape. And then, the by-the-book infantry advances, only to be cut down by another MG-42, dug into the rubble, untouched by the barrage. The advance is a crawl. The cost is horrific. The expert system is failing. The generals are desperate. They need a scalpel to cut out these German cancer cells, but all the War Office has given them is a sledgehammer. And the sledgehammer is not working. The entire invasion is grinding to a halt, drowning in mud and blood. The impossible problem is simple. How do you defeat a defensive system designed for annihilation, in terrain that was built to defend, when your own doctrine is based on a war that ended 20 years ago? The War Office has no answer. The experts are stumped. The solution will have to come from somewhere else. It will have to come from a place they would never ever look. It will come from the men they despise most. The solution, as it always does, comes from the fringes. It comes from a man who is the walking antithesis of the War Office expert. He is Simon Fraser, the 15th Lord Lovat. To the by-the-book generals, he is a problem. He is an aristocrat, a Scottish laird, a landowner who commands a private army called the Lovat Scouts, which his father had raised from gamekeepers and stalkers. He is tall, handsome, and carries an absurd antique hunting rifle. He is a romantic. But he is also a commando, one of the new ruthless breed of soldiers born from the ashes of Dunkirk, men tasked with breaking every rule the War Office holds dear. Lovat is not an expert in modern industrial warfare. He is an expert in something far older, the hunt. He does not think in terms of divisions and artillery barrages. He thinks in terms of stalking a stag. He does not believe in the Mad Minute. He believes in the one-round war. Lovat's credentials are, to the expert mind, a joke. He has spent his life in the Scottish Highlands, on his vast, bleakly beautiful estate. His teachers were not instructors at Sandhurst. They were his ghillies, the game wardens and stalkers of his land. These were not soldiers. They were poachers, deer stalkers, shepherds, and fishermen. They were men who could read the wind by the tremor of a blade of grass. They could lie in a freezing waterlogged ditch for 72 hours, perfectly still, waiting for a single stag to appear. They could move across a bare hillside without a sound, without disturbing a single pebble. They were men for whom invisibility was a way of life. They were men who understood that the rifle was not a tool for making noise. It was a tool for delivering a single, precise, and fatal message from 1,000 yards away. His eureka moment comes while observing a standard infantry training exercise. He watches a platoon of good, brave men practicing the bayonet charge. He watches them screaming, running, firing their rifles from the hip, practicing the Mad Minute on static targets. Whistles are blowing. Officers are shouting. It is all noise, aggression, and movement. Lovat watches this, disgusted. He sees it as a performance, a loud, clumsy ritual designed to build aggression while destroying the one thing that matters, the element of surprise. He sees men being trained to be targets. He realizes that the expert doctrine is a lie. It is training men to die bravely. Lovat is interested in training men to win quietly. His idea is simple, practical, and to the War Office completely insane. Why, he argues, should we send 1,000 men to brawl with a machine gun when one man, invisible, can kill the machine gunner from a distance where he cannot possibly be hit back? Why play the enemy's game? Why not change the rules entirely? He drafts a proposal. He suggests the creation of a new kind of soldier, a stalker, a man who operates alone or in a pair, a man whose primary weapon is not fire rate but patience, whose primary defense is not a trench but invisibility. He envisions a unit of men who can infiltrate enemy lines, bypass the front, and dismantle the German army from the inside out. They will not capture ground. They will capture minds. They will kill officers. They will kill radiomen. They will kill the mortar crews and the machine gun teams. They will paralyze the German nervous system, creating chaos and terror far beyond their tiny numbers. He presents this to the Ordnance Corps. The experts, the TNT purists, are appalled. This is not soldiering. This is murder. It is ungentlemanly. It is cowardly. It is, they sniff, the sort of irregular tactic one expects from savages or Canadians, not from the British Army. A British soldier, they declare, advances in formation. He meets his enemy face to face. He does not, they say, skulk in a ditch like a poacher. They laugh him out of the building. They dismiss him as a romantic aristocrat playing at war. But Lovat is a commando. And the commandos exist to break the rules. He ignores the War Office. He uses his name, his connections, and the sheer desperation of the war in Italy. He gets his crazy school authorized, not as a formal part of the army, but as a specialist training wing, attached to the commando depot at Achnacary, his own ancestral estate. The location is perfect. It is the most unforgiving terrain in the British Isles. It is a landscape of endless freezing rain, sucking bogs, and bare windswept hills. It is a place that will kill any man not strong enough to master it. It is, in short, a poacher's paradise. Lovat does not send out a request for expert marksmen from the rifle brigades. He sends out a request for men who, in civilian life, were gamekeepers, estate stalkers, professional poachers, and ghillies. The Army's recruitment officers are baffled. They are looking at civilian police records, not military service records. But the men arrive. They are not soldiers. They are thin, weathered, quiet men. They move with an economic grace. They do not talk. They watch. Lovat's training regime is the antithesis of the expert system. There is no drill. There is no shouting. There are no bayonet charges. The first thing he teaches is not shooting. It is stillness. He forces his men to lie in a single spot, in the freezing mud for 24 hours without moving. He teaches them to slow their own heartbeats. He teaches them to observe, to see everything. The turn of a leaf, the flight of a bird, the displacement of a single stone. He teaches them to become part of the land, to erase their own human signature. Then he teaches them to move. He makes them crawl on their bellies for a full mile across a bare, open hillside in broad daylight, while he watches them through the most powerful binoculars he can find. If he spots them, they fail. They crawl for 8 hours, moving inches at a time, only when the wind stirs the grass. They become moving rocks, patches of shadow, and then he gives them their crazy invention. He rejects the standard-issue khaki uniform. It is, he says, a target. It is designed to make a man visible. Instead, his men take camouflage netting, canvas strips, and burlap sacking. They sew them onto a smock, and then they weave in the local vegetation, heather, grass, twigs, mud. They create a shaggy, shapeless, monstrous costume. It looks like a pile of refuse. It looks like a mobile bush. It is the ghillie suit named for the poachers who inspired it. The few regular officers who see it laugh. They call it a tramp's outfit or Lovat's fantasy. It is ridiculous. It is unmilitary. It is also the single most effective camouflage system ever devised. The "it works" moment, the test, is a scene of pure, quiet terror. A skeptical Goliath, a by-the-book colonel from the War Office, arrives at Achnacary to inspect Lovat's absurd experiment and most likely shut it down. He is an expert. He believes in artillery and formations. Lovat takes him to a ridge overlooking a vast, empty expanse of Scottish moorland. It is bleak, gray, and empty. "Well, Lovat," the colonel says, annoyed, raising his binoculars. "Where are they? I hope you haven't wasted my time." "I see absolutely nothing." Lovat looks at his watch. "Colonel," he says calmly, "you have been in the sights of 20 rifles for the last 15 minutes. The colonel scoffs. "Nonsense. The hill is bare." Lovat turns and nods to his adjutant, who fires a single flare into the gray sky. 300 yards away on the empty hillside, a patch of heather stands up. It is a man. 10 yards to its left, a clump of grass shimmers and becomes a man. A shadow detaches itself from a rock. A pile of dead leaves rises. In 30 seconds, 20 invisible men are standing on the hillside, their rifles all pointed directly at the colonel's chest. The colonel's face goes white. He lowers his binoculars. He has just seen a ghost. He was dead. His entire expert escort was dead. They had walked into a trap and never even seen it. The poacher's gimmick was not a gimmick. It was genius. The crazy idea was not just viable. It was lethal. The unexpert has proven the expert wrong. Lovat's victory at Achnacarry is a small one. He has proven his ghosts can work in the controlled environment of the Scottish Highlands. Now he must fight the real war, the war against the British Army's own high command. The crazy idea must now face the expert institution, and the institution is a Goliath of pure, unassailable arrogance. The snipers, now formalized into specialist units, arrive in Italy in late 1943. They are an unwelcome curiosity. The man they must convince is Brigadier General Davies, a man who is the living embodiment of the War Office. Davies is a TNT purist of the old school. He is a man who measures success in the tonnage of high explosives fired and the number of bayonets fixed. He is watching his division, the 5th Infantry, bleed to death against the German positions on the Volturno River. His solution, the expert solution, is always the same: more artillery, followed by another frontal assault. When Lovat's concept is presented to him, he is not just skeptical. He is openly hostile. He sits in his drafty command tent, a massive red-faced man staring at the quiet, lean officer representing the sniper corps. "Assassins!" Davies spits, throwing the proposal onto his map. "You are asking me to halt a divisional artillery plan, a complex and beautifully timed instrument of war, so that a handful of your poachers can go hunting?" He laughs, a short barking sound. "The German is not a stag, Captain. He is a professional soldier, dug into a steel and concrete bunker behind a belt-fed machine gun. You cannot stalk an MG-42, you must crush it. You crush it with artillery, and then you send in the infantry to finish the job with cold steel. That is how wars are won. Not by this skulking. It's cowardly, it's ungentlemanly, and frankly, it's a circus act. The real conflict is not about tactics. It is about philosophy. Davies and the War Office represent the Goliath of industrial warfare. They believe in systems, in mass, in the overwhelming application of force. The rifleman is a cog in this machine. His job is to advance under the umbrella of the artillery, to occupy the ground the big guns have cleared. The Lovat sniper represents an idea that is terrifying to these men. The idea that one, single, unexpert individual with the right skills can be more effective than an entire battery of 25-pounder guns. If Lovat is right, then Davies is wrong. And if Davies is wrong, his entire education, his career, and his deeply held beliefs about courage and warfare are a lie. He cannot accept this. He sees the snipers as a threat, not to the Germans, but to his own authority. The impossible problem that forces the confrontation is a village. The same village from the cold open, south of the Volturno. On the maps, it is marked as Objective 445. It is a cluster of stone houses on a ridge that commands the main road, and it is the linchpin of the German defensive line. It is held by battle-hardened panzer grenadiers. They have had weeks to prepare. The houses are not houses. They are bunkers. The church bell tower is not a landmark. It is an artillery observation post. And in the windows, in the cellars, and in the rubble are at least 4, perhaps 6, MG-42 machine guns, sighted for interlocking fields of fire. Brigadier General Davies has already tried to take Objective 445 twice, the expert by-the-book way. The first time he sent in a company, they were annihilated by the machine guns before they got within 200 yards. The second time, he ordered a full regimental barrage firing 5,000 shells into the village. The village was turned into a cloud of gray dust, and when his infantry advanced into the smoke, the MG-42s, pulled back into deep shell-proof cellars during the bombardment, were dragged back up. They opened fire and the attack was shredded again. The 5th Division has lost over 300 men trying to take a village held by perhaps 50 Germans. Davies is furious, humiliated. His expert solution has failed. His only answer is to do it again, but harder. He plans a third assault. This time he will use the entire divisional artillery. He will fire 20,000 shells. He will not just pulverize the village, he will erase it from the map. This is when the gamble is forced. The Corps commander, a man named General Leese, is desperate. The entire Allied advance is stalled, waiting for Davies to clear this one road. The casualty lists are horrific. He summons Davies and Lovat's advocate. Davies presents his plan. The 20,000 shell Goliath barrage followed by a full battalion assault. "It will work this time, sir," he says, his jaw set. "We will crush them." General Leese looks at the logistics report. The barrage will take 2 days to position the guns and stockpile the ammunition. 2 days. Then he turns to the sniper officer. "And your plan?" The officer is calm. "Sir, General Davies is correct. He must crush the machine guns. He is trying to do it with 20,000 shells. Let me try to do it with 8 bullets. Give me 8 men in 12 hours. They will go in tonight. They will enter the village. They will kill the machine gun teams, the mortar observers, and the officer in command. By dawn, the village will still be standing, but its nervous system will be dead. Your infantry can walk in and take it," Davies explodes. "Treachery! It's a suicide mission. They'll be cut to ribbons and they'll alert the entire position. It's insane." General Leese looks at the map, then at the casualty reports. He is a gambler and he is desperate. He makes the damn the rules decision. "To hell with it, Davies. Your proper way is costing me a battalion a week. We are going to try the coward's way." He turns to the sniper officer. "You have your 12 hours. Your 8 men go in at 2200 tonight. You have until 0600. I want those machine guns silent by 0600. Because at 0601, General Davies' 20,000 shell barrage begins. And I do not care if your men are still in there. The main infantry assault goes in at 700 no matter what. Is that understood?" The officer nods. "Yes, sir. The gamble is on. The unlikely heroes, 8 men armed with poachers' skills, are being sent on an impossible mission. They must do what an entire artillery division could not. They must succeed, or they will be erased from the earth, not by the Germans, but by their own expert Allied barrage. The preparation is a study in the unexpert method. There is no loud pep talk. There is no issuing of grenades or bayonets. We see the 8 men. They are led by a Sergeant MacLeod, a gaunt, silent man who was a deer stalker on a Scottish estate. He carries no maps. He has been observing the village through a telescope for 3 days. He has in his mind already walked every street. He has memorized the habits of every German sentry. He knows which machine gunner coughs and which one smokes. His men are not soldiers. They are predators. They are curing their ghillie suits in the local mud, mixing it with pig manure from a nearby farm to cover their human scent. They check their rifles, the pattern 14 Enfield, a heavy, accurate weapon discarded by the expert War Office as too slow, but prized by the snipers for its precision. They tape their stocks to prevent noise. They carry a flask of water, a bar of chocolate, and a fighting knife. That is all. At 2200, they do not form a line. They split into 4 two-man teams. MacLeod gives a single hand signal. They do not walk or even crawl. They simply vanish. They melt into the shadows, into the ditches, into the shell craters. The German sentries, listening for the rumble of tanks or the tramp of a by-the-book patrol, hear nothing but the wind. The ghosts are inside the wire. The time is 5:55. In a British observation post 5 miles from Objective 445, Brigadier General Davies stares at his watch. His face is a mask of controlled fury. He is surrounded by the muffled, tense activity of a command post before a 0 hour. Radiomen are checking their sets. Artillery officers are standing by their field telephones, ready to speak the single word that will unleash 20,000 shells. Davies is a man watching his own professional execution. He wants the snipers to fail. He needs them to fail. If they fail, his world makes sense again. The poacher's gimmick will be exposed, and his expert solution, the beautiful, overwhelming industrial power of his guns, will be validated. He looks at General Leese, who is staring through a massive pair of binoculars, his elbows resting on a sandbag. "So 5-6, sir," Davies says, his voice tight. "My guns are ready." Leese does not lower the binoculars. "Quiet, Brigadier," he says. "They still have 4 minutes." At that exact moment, Oberleutnant Richter, commanding the 15th Panzer Grenadier Battalion, is smiling. It is 0556, and the false dawn is painting the sky in shades of gray. He is in his command post, a reinforced cellar 800 yards from the empty village. His point elements, 2 full squads, have been inside the village for an hour. The report was everything he expected. Lear, empty, the British have fled. The resistance that had cost him a full company 2 days prior had evaporated. He pictured them, The by-the-book Tommies running in terror. He knew their doctrine. They were brawlers. If they were not brawling, they were running. They had no stomach for a real fight. "They are cowards," he says to his NCO, who nods and lights a cigarette. "They waste ammunition and then they run." Richter steps out into the morning air. He orders the main body of his battalion, 600 men, to advance up the road. He is arrogant. He is an expert. And he is about to walk blind into the most sophisticated trap of his career. Inside the village, Sergeant McLeod is not a man. He is a pile of damp, foul-smelling rubble. He has been in this position, a shattered corner of a destroyed bakery, for 6 hours. His ghillie suit, caked in local mud, pig dung, and limestone dust, makes him invisible. He is not cold. He is not tired. He is simply waiting. Through the telescopic sight of his P-14 Enfield, he is watching Oberleutnant Richter. He has been watching him for an hour. He has not pulled the trigger. Richter is not his target. Not yet. McLeod is listening. He hears the rumble of the German half-tracks in the valley. He hears the casual, arrogant voices of the Panzer Grenadiers now entering the village piazza, their boots scraping on the stones. They are laughing. One of them urinates against the wall of the church. They are experts who believe they are safe. McLeod's 4 teams are in position. They are ghosts. One team is in the ruins of the church overlooking the piazza. One team is 600 yards east, watching the primary MG-42 bunker. One team is 1,000 yards south, with a perfect view of the German mortar pits. And McLeod, with his partner, is watching the command post and the road. None of them have fired. This is the crazy tactic. They are not here to fight the infantry. They are here to kill the nervous system. The time is 0600. The deadline. In the British OP, Davies clears his throat. "Sir, it is 600. General Leese says nothing. He is watching the village, watching the German battalion begin its advance. He sees the column of men, the trucks, the half-tracks moving up the valley road, confident. "Wait," Leese says. His voice is a whisper. Davies is about to protest, about to demand his guns be unleashed, when a sound reaches them. A single sharp crack. It is not the boom of an artillery piece. It is not the rattle of a machine gun. It is the distinct piercing snap of a high-velocity rifle. In the German command post, Oberleutnant Richter hears it too. He frowns. A partisan? His radioman, sitting on an ammunition box, raises a hand to his headset to get a report from the village. At that exact moment, McLeod's partner, 10 feet from McLeod, fires. The radioman's head disintegrates. Richter is thrown back, splattered with blood and brain matter. He stares, his mind blank, unable to process what just happened. His radio, his link to his battalion and his superiors, is a ruin of shattered vacuum tubes and blood. Before Richter can even wipe his face, the village explodes. Not in a Goliath barrage, but in a series of single, terrifyingly precise cracks. In the church bell tower, a German artillery observer, the man who has been directing the murderous mortar fire for 2 weeks, raises his binoculars. A single bullet, fired from 800 yards, enters his left eye and exits the back of his skull. His body topples over the railing, dangling by its harness, a grotesque pendulum. In the piazza, the lounging Panzer Grenadiers hear the shots. They are confused. There is no machine gun fire, no artillery, just the cracks. A Feldwebel, a hardened veteran, reacts instantly. He barks, "Alarm!" in Die Häuser. "Take cover!" A bullet from the ruined church strikes him in the throat, severing his spine. He falls, gurgling. The infantry leaderless panic. They are experts at fighting a visible enemy, an enemy they can suppress with their MG-42s. But this is an enemy they cannot see. They spray their machine pistols wildly at the empty windows. They are fighting shadows. An MG-42, the Goliath weapon, opens up from a sandbagged bunker. Its gunner, terrified, is just firing blind, sending a stream of tracers into the sky. The sniper team that has been watching him for 6 hours waits. They let him fire, marking his exact position. The gunner stops to reload. His assistant stands up to feed the new belt. The first sniper fires, hitting the assistant. The gunner screams, and the sniper's partner fires, hitting the gunner. The entire expert fire team, the heart of the German defense, is eliminated in 3 seconds by 2 bullets. A second MG-42 opens up. It too is silenced in the same surgical, terrifying way. The German infantry are now deaf, blind, and leaderless. They are 600 men, but they are no longer an army. They are a mob. Oberleutnant Richter is in a state of primal fury. This is impossible. This is not warfare. He scrambles for a field telephone. It is dead. The line has been cut. He screams at a runner, "Tell the mortars to fire! Saturation! Fire on the village! Level it!" The runner, a boy of 19, sprints from the bunker. He gets 10 feet before a bullet from McLeod's rifle takes him in the chest. Richter sends another. That runner is hit in the leg. He screams, dragging himself, and a second bullet silences him. Richter is a prisoner in his own command post. He is cut off. His battalion, the men in the valley, have stopped. They have seen the runners killed. They have seen the officers in the piazza cut down. They are pinned. Not by machine guns, not by artillery, but by 8 invisible ghosts. The bafflement of the expert is total. The Germans fire everything they have. They launch Panzerschrecks into the ruins. They hose down the empty streets with their remaining machine guns, wasting tens of thousands of rounds. They are shooting at ghosts. The 8 snipers following Lovat's poacher doctrine are gone. They fired and they moved. They used sewers, collapsed cellars, and pre-planned routes through the rubble. They are now in new positions, watching the chaos they have created. The German battalion is disintegrating. The NCOs who try to rally the men are hit. The officers who try to lead an assault are hit. The expert German system, so beautiful in its by-the-book combined arms perfection, has one fatal, arrogant flaw. It assumes it can see its enemy. It is a Goliath, and the 8 snipers have just put out its eyes, cut its tendons, and severed its brainstem. By 0700, the battle is over. The expert battalion is broken. They are cowering, leaderless, and completely pinned down. 600 heavily armed veterans are being held hostage by 8 men. In the British OP, General Lees finally lowers his binoculars. The sun is up. The village is silent, but this time, it is a different silence. It is the silence of death, of paralysis. Brigadier General Davies is pale, his mouth open. He has just witnessed the impossible. He has seen 8 men accomplish what his entire division could not. General Lees turns to the sniper officer. "Tell your men to stand down." "Well done." Then he turns to Davies. His voice is cold steel. "Brigadier, the road is clear. Send in your infantry and tell them to walk. The fighting is over." The after-action report filed by Oberleutnant Richter was a document of pure, unadulterated bafflement. It was flagged by his superiors at the 15th Panzergrenadier Division, and then flagged again by Oberkommando der Wehrmacht. The experts in Berlin read it with disbelief, then with a cold, dawning horror. Richter, an experienced and decorated officer, reported that his battalion, 600 strong, had been attacked and neutralized by an invisible force. He claimed his officers, his radiomen, his mortar observers, and his machine gun crews were systematically executed by an unknown number of phantom shooters. He reported that the enemy fired no artillery, used no mortars, and advanced no infantry. He stated, in what must have seemed like madness, that the entire engagement was lost in under 30 minutes, by no more than 10, perhaps as few as 8 individual riflemen. The German High Command, the Goliath of military doctrine, was furious. They called Richter a coward. They called him a liar. They demoted him. But they also, in a secret memorandum, ordered an immediate investigation into this neue feindliche Taktik, this new enemy tactic. They had no answer for it. Their expert system, so dominant against the brawling allies, was completely, terrifyingly vulnerable to the poacher's scalpel. The ghosts had done more than win a village. They had planted a seed of terror in the heart of the Wehrmacht. When the British infantry of the 5th Division finally advanced, they did not charge. As General Lees had ordered, they walked. They advanced up the road into Objective 445, their rifles slung, their bayonets sheathed. They found a scene of surreal carnage. They found not a battlefield but a morgue. They found German panzer grenadiers, the supposed supermen of the Wehrmacht, huddled in cellars, their hands held high in surrender, their eyes wide with a shell shock that had not been caused by shells. They found officers slumped over their maps, radio men dead at their sets, machine gunners killed in their nests, all with the same single devastatingly precise bullet wound. The British Tommies, so used to the industrial slaughter of artillery and the bloody chaos of the bayonet charge, were silent. They were walking through a village taken by magic. The Goliath, the German war machine, had been dismantled piece by piece by an enemy that was never even there. Brigadier General Davies, the TNT purist, walked through the village himself. He saw the dead MG-42 teams. He saw the dead mortar observer in the bell tower. He stood over the body of the officer hid in the piazza. He was a man watching his entire belief system crumble into dust. He had planned to fire 20,000 shells to do this. 8 men had done it with, as the after-action report would later confirm, 12 bullets. Davies said nothing, but when he returned to his command post, he tore up his artillery plan, and he filed a formal request on his own letterhead for a permanent Lovat sniper detachment to be assigned to his division. The expert had been fooled, And he had, in his humiliation, finally learned. And what of the unlikely heroes? What of the men who had proven the expert so catastrophically wrong? There were no parades. There were no medals for ungentlemanly conduct. Sergeant McLeod, the gaunt deerstalker, filed his report, cleaned his rifle, and prepared for the next objective. The crazy school at Achnacarry continued its work, quietly, in the rain and mud of the highlands, churning out more ghosts, more poachers, more assassins. They were the men who did the impossible. And they were the men who were never spoken of. They were a military secret, a classified weapon system more valuable than a tank. The Germans, in their baffled fury, began developing their own counters. They rushed the development of the Zielfernrohrgewehr, their own sniper rifles. They began belatedly to teach their own men stalking tactics. But it was too late. The unexpert idea had broken their system. When the war finally ended, the humble heroes returned to their quiet lives. Simon Fraser, Lord Lovat, the aristocratic romantic who had defied the War Office, went back to his estate. He walked the same moors, he hunted the same stags. He was a commando, a war hero, but he was, first and foremost, a ghillie, a man of the land. He had proven his crazy idea, and that was enough. Sergeant McLeod went back to his old job as a gamekeeper on a vast, empty Scottish estate. He went back to the silence, to the wind and the rain. He returned to a life of watching, of patience, of stillness. The men who had held a battalion hostage, the men who had dismantled a Goliath with a handful of bullets, simply vanished back into the society that had produced them. They did not talk about what they had done. They were not experts in war. They were simply experts in the hunt. They went back to their farms, their fishing boats, and their moors, their impossible secret safe. The moral of Objective 445 is not a comfortable one for the expert mind. It is a lesson that is learned and forgotten, over and over, in the history of warfare. It is the lesson that tactics are always more important than technology. It is the lesson that arrogance is a disease that blinds the expert, making him predictable, making him a target. It is the lesson that the most dangerous man on any battlefield is not the one with the biggest gun. It is the one who refuses to play by the rules. It is the lesson that the expert, the by-the-book Goliath, is always the easiest man to fool, because he cannot imagine a David existing outside his own rigid system. The poacher, the tinkerer, the unexpert with no credentials, will always defeat the professional, because the professional has studied only the past, while the unexpert is free to invent the future, and that future is the final. Full-circle proof of Lovat's crazy idea. Today, the poacher's gimmick is the new expert Goliath doctrine for every modern army on Earth. The modern United States Army sniper is the direct descendant of Sergeant McLeod. The tactics of stalking, of patience, of invisibility are now the core curriculum at Fort Benning. The ghillie suit, once laughed at as a tramp's outfit, is now a billion-dollar piece of high-tech military hardware. The crazy idea of dismantling the enemy's nervous system, of killing the officers, the radiomen, and the machine gunners first, is now the entire basis of modern, network-centric warfare. Every Special Forces operator, from the Navy SEALs to the Green Berets, is trained not as a brawler, but as a poacher. The unexpert idea, born in the highlands and proven in the rubble of Italy, is now the central, by-the-book expert doctrine of the most powerful military in history. The ghosts of Achnacarry are no longer ghosts. They are the new standard. And the assassin's work, once despised as cowardly, is now and forever will be simply called war.